This first clip is about the kulaks and the collectivization of agriculture in the days of Stalin. So we left the previous lesson or class where we talked about how destructive and dangerous the Russian Civil War had been and how ultimately war communism had seen Lenin's troops fed at the expense of the people. Stalin put some checks and balances into this when he came into power in the later 1920s. So what Stalin did was, one, aimed at addressing an ongoing crisis in Russia, a lack of food, and secondly, number two, he wanted to get absolute control over the people that lived in the countryside, the peasants. Think back, Stalin had introduced, Lenin, sorry, had introduced his new economic policy whereby peasants could actually sell food that they'd made in the markets and make a little bit of a profit. That stimulated the economy, should we say. Stalin hated the concept of the peasants making a profit. It was a betrayal of communism, and it also led to them getting these ambitions to be something better than they were. And Stalin, as a communist, would be saying that everybody is equal. So the richer peasants, and I'm going to use the word kulaks, had become known as kulaks. They were obviously hated by the poorer peasants because they got land and they got a bit of wealth and they got some money, and they're a bit nouveau, they're a bit out there, and understandably they're ambitious. So this I'll call it tall poppy syndrome, right? Stalin wants to cut them off by their knees, and his answer is to collectivize agriculture. Basically, this means, in a nutshell, create massive super farms, like farms the size of half the state, not quite, but you get the picture. And they'd specialize. So these farms would specialize. It might be wheat, it might be corn, it might be maize. It doesn't matter. It might be pigs. It might be sheep or beef. Regardless, they had a task and a job to do, and that's all they focused upon. So this specialization of agriculture, this collectivization, super farms, super technology, and super planning would alleviate and solve any shortfalls in harvest and in food that the Russians had ever experienced. So food would not be a problem ever again. Problem number one sorted. Problem number two sorted. The kulaks, the rich peasants, would also be sorted. If they didn't move to these farms, they were killed, right? Absolutely no mercy. So collectivization, one, addresses food shortages, and two, it also addresses the issue of people who Stalin might be looking at and questioning their loyalty to his plan, his Russia, his ideas. So that's your overview of these collective farms. They met with resentment, they met with anger, they met with hostility. Peasants initially burned their crops, they killed their animals rather than hand them over to Stalin, rather than move and relocate to the houses. However, after 10 years, Stalin basically just kept on going. He didn't let up. So he's eventually successful. So the crops fall in yield. There's less of them in the first few years, but eventually when people look at Stalin and just think, nah, he's not messing about. He's here for the long haul. He's going to win this battle. They eventually take on board the fact that this collectivization program across Russia is here to stay. And as technology gets better, more tractors, more people in the new cities, I'll come on to that one in the next clip, people in the new cities to be fed, but also making goods and making products like tractors and fertilizer that's used on the farm. What you find is that the Russia of Stalin starts to work together awkwardly, but better than it was under Lenin. The cost is massive, it's human, it's millions and millions of lives, either through starvation or, on the other hand, through violence, in the fact that Stalin's forces, his soldiers, his Red Army, killed those people who wouldn't play ball and wouldn't do what he wanted. So that's an overview of his collectivization of agriculture and his policy of extermination of the kulak, richer farmers who he could not abide and had no place in his vision of a truly united Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR, no longer Russia. Okay, the next one's going to be about the agricultural, the industrialization 5-year plan programs. Okay, thank you.